Okay, what's up? Somebody say I should show my face in some of the video. So today you're going to see my face in the video. And the goals remain one, educating the masses through information technology. If we want for Liberia to go forward, we got to help our brothers. We got to train our brothers in environment where they can get, something to do in times to come. So today we're going to be doing SQL Server Part 1. So we have agenda. So inside this part, these are things that we're going to do. So we're going to create our first database. We're going to create tables. We're going to implement the primary key constraint. We're going to insert data into tables. We're going to filter data using the where clause. We're going to change data using the update statement. We're going to add more columns to existing table using the alter statement. We're going to use some operator like sum, like average, like count, maximum, minimum, greater than, and less than. So stay tuned as we go along. And once again, if you are not subscribed, just go ahead and subscribe. You got to promote your own product now. Okay, so let's hit now. Follow back the first video to see how you can install SQL that we already did. Now, when you already have SQL installed, now you have to go ahead and launch it. So we can hit the window key from here, then you can search SQL. Now we have to go for SQL Server Management Studio. So hitting this, going to open SQL Server Management Studio. Better still, in one box, you can type XSMX. It's the same SQL Server Management Studio. Clicking OK, going to launch you this window. Now this is the SSMS window. On the left side, the Object Explorer. Now what are the objects? So the objects are what the database is built upon, right, all around. So the objects are the tables, the database, these are all objects, right? So from the Object Explorer, you're able to see your databases, you're able to see tables, like the constraint and all, the keys and all, right? So after opening this way, you have to connect. I already connected to the server. You have to now click on the new query window. And then you're gonna have a window opening like this. Now the query window is just like a sheet. So you can decide to write your note on one sheet, or you can decide to write your note on many sheets. Yeah. So you can choose when to write on what sheet, right? So here, this is the query window. Now to get a better view, you can increase the zoom from here. So let me go 200 zoom. So when I'm typing something, you can see it, right? So this is the query window. Here we have to type our syntax. Whenever we want to do whatever, we have to type the syntax. Another video will come with the GUI way, but this is straight the syntax stuff. So here, what we want to start going is, the first agenda is to create database. And whenever you want to create database, in your new query window, you have to type the syntax, create database. Now, name of the database you want to create. So our first database, we're going to call it Bluecrest, right? So create database Bluecrest. Now, after typing the syntax, you have to execute it. Now, the shortcut to execute is the F5 key. So from a keyboard, if I press the F5 key, my syntax is going to get executed. Now I've got a result. So this result is a result that shows that the things happen successfully. The syntax was executed successfully, no error. So this is like the message span, where you see the message, whether there's an error, how many rules affected. Now we got one database, right? So we can just go ahead and create a table without connecting to the database. Or if we do any syntax here and execute, the data will not be inserted inside the Bluecrest database. Now to see the database, we have to refresh from the left, but upward the Object Explorer, and we have to expand databases. Now what you see here, you see the Bluecrest database. These are all the objects. Now if you expand the table here, no table yet. So we have to make table. First, we have to connect to the Bluecrest database. Now to connect, you can write a syntax use, name of the database you want to connect. So we want to connect to Bluecrest. So we want to connect to the Bluecrest database. Now there are multiple syntax, so you have to highlight which one you want to execute. Don't highlight all and execute. It will give you wrong result. So highlight use Bluecrest and click execute. Now the database to change from here to the name of the database created. Or better still, you can click the drop down arrow and just select the Bluecrest one. Now we inside the database. The next thing we want to do is create our first table. So inside the Bluecrest database, we're going to have two tables. We're going to have the teacher table, and also going to have the student table, right? So here, you have to go ahead and create our table. Whenever you want to create table in SQL, you have to write the syntax create table. Now, name of the table. So we want the table to be student table. So name of the student, name of the table student. Now, what are those columns? How many columns you want there? And then what are the columns header? So we want to get ID column for the student table. That's the first column. So ID column, what could be the data type of ID? Now ID carryable numbers, right? So the data type is going to be integer. So INT, the abbreviation for integer. Now after the first column, you have to do command to go to the next column. So integer, now the next one going to be name. So you're going to have the student name also. Now the data type for student name is going to be varchar. Varchar. Now the varchar data type work with string character. Maybe you want to do address, maybe you want to do course, maybe you want to do name. So you don't have to do a string character. You have to make it varchar data type, right? You can do int also, right? Now we have to allocate space on the memory that how many characters the name can accept using the varchar. So if we set 10 and then somebody's name is longer than 10, the character is more than 10, it will not store that particular data, right? So whenever you're making your database, you got to think for the future. Things might change, right? So 50 is not bad, yeah. Even the guy who having the longer name, the range can still fit in 50. After the next column, you have to do comma. Now you can choose to write your data on one line, or you can choose to make it short. But for me, I like making it like short, right? So after the name, we want to get course. So the course column also we want. Now varchar also, that's the data type, we want 25. We can put any number there lesser than 255. No, from 1 to 255, that can go, right? So comma now. So we just want to have 3 columns. Now this is the last one. Remember, we open a parenthesis here. So what we have to do, we have to close the parenthesis. If you can't close the parenthesis, you always see the red indicator. Now we have to do the same column to end the statement. So we have to highlight this syntax, and then press the F5 key or click here to execute. Now success message. So we have one table being executed. Now we refresh from the object explorer. Now let's try to explore, right? Let's try to see what we get inside the table. So if we refresh from here like this and then expand the Bluecrest database, we're going to see table. If we expand table now, we got the student table, right? So let's see what are the columns inside the student table before we put value there. So we're going to go to select statement. So select the asterisk stand for all, meaning you want all the values. So you want all the column right now. So select all from name of the table or student table. So select all from the student table. Now execute. So student table have 3 columns, ID, name, and course. So now we have to put data there, right? So to put data, we have to use the keyword insert. So we have to say insert into name of the table you want to insert. So we want to insert into student. Now what are those columns that we want to insert the data? So if we come back here, we have ID, we have name, we have course. So you have to say ID, comma, name, comma, course. Okay. You have to close the parenthesis. Below this, you have to type the keyword values. Values. Now we have to put the values. So we just want to have 5 records. We're just going to have 5 records for now. So we're going to do 1, that's the ID of the first person, and then we're going to write the name of the first person. So the name is Momo. So I'm the first student inside this file. But guess what? Whenever you write a string character, if you see the name column from here, we say it was a varchar, right? So varchar value always carry a single quote. So single quotes you have to put around the data like this. Then you have to do a command because we want we want to insert value for another column. So the comma have to be there. We separated the ID from the name with a comma, separate the name from the course with a comma also. In single quote, we have to quote the course. So let's say I'm doing Java. Like that. Now we want to have 5 values, right? So let's close it. Since we want to insert more value, then we do the comma instead of the semicolon. So we're going to do for the second person. So ID number 2. Now let's say this person name is Joshua. So Joshua, comma. Now what's Joshua course? So let's say Joshua is doing C#. So Joshua is doing C#. Then we have to close the parenthesis. We have to do a comma because we're doing more value. Open parenthesis again. We have to do number 3, comma. Number 3 person name. Let's say Grace. So what code? Grace is installing. Let's say Grace is installing data communication, DCN. We have to close the parenthesis. We have to do a comma. Open the parenthesis. Go for the full value, comma. The name of the fourth student. So we're going to say Joe. Joe. Now what Joe is studying have to be in a single quote because it's main character. So let's say Joe is studying HTML. Now we have to close the parenthesis. We have to do a comma. Now 5 values. So parenthesis open. We have to do number 5. We have to do comma. And the 5th person name gonna be Mary. So Mary is the 5th student. And we have to do comma. In single quote also we have to put the quote. So let's say she's doing C++. Right? We have to close the parenthesis. We have to do a semicolon at the end of the statement. But there's a problem. Now you see, whenever you have error in your syntax, there will always be a pointing line, right? So as soon as you hover over the pointing line, you see the message. So the message saying the number of columns for each row in the table value constructor must be the same. So right here, we shouldn't do the period. It should be a comma, but I made a mistake. I do the period there. Now see, we're not having any error. This is it, right? So executing the syntax, we insert 5 values inside our student table. So go ahead, execute. Now 5 rows affected. Let's run the select statement from here and then see what we get. So execute also. Now see. Right. So down here now we have our student table and there are 5 values. That was amazing, right? So it's kind of easy. It's not difficult, you know. It's not difficult. Okay. So let's refer back to our agenda. We have created the table. Primary key constraint. We're going to put on the teacher table to let it be like that for now. Now insert. We've inserted data. Now let's try to filter using the where clause, right? So we're going to hit back right here. Now what we want is I want to see those who studying Java, right? I want to see who is studying Java. So I have to use the keyword where. Better still, first let's create the column, right? So let's try to get columns one after the other. So right now I want to see the name column. I only want to see the name column from this table, only the name column. Then what I have to do is I have to select name. That's a column. Select name of the column 1 from the table name. So select name from student like that. Now if we highlight and then execute, what you get, you only seeing the name, no ID. These are the counts of how many rows you get, right? So now we only see the name. In case you want a name in the course, then you say name comma course. Also highlighting this gonna give us the name and the course. So that's how we can fetch column 1, column 2, column. We just have to separate with a comma like the normal way we inserted the data, right? So we get it. So if you want to see all the value, then you gotta go with this. Select all from name of the table from student. So we got all the value now, right? Let's say somebody wants to see who's studying Java. So we have to use the select. So select, we have to say all from student. So we want all from student. Now where, the where clause come over. And where, of course, we want to know who's studying Java, right? So where course is equal Java. So where course equal Java. So the Java have to be in a single quote. Right. Semicolon at the end. Now highlight also. Now execute. What do you get? Momo. Because Momo is the one studying Java. Get that? So that's how simple it can be. But in case we want, let's go ahead and see all the values. Let's go ahead and run our select statement. Okay, now we want to know who is telling, what Joe is telling, right? We want to see the record of Joe. So we can use any of the columns value here, any of the three columns to see what we want, right? So here we could either say where course is Java. Okay, now let's write another statement. So let's say, so select all from student, select all from students, where, now let's say where ID is equal to 3, semicolon. We want to see who get ID number 3. Grace, right? So we could see Grace using Grace ID, we could see Grace using Grace name, we could see Grace using the course Grace is studying, right? So you can use any of the three parameters that gonna still work. Okay, so here we could say where name, so where name is equal to Grace. So Grace is a string character, we have to put it in a single quote like that. So executing this, we're still going to see the value for Grace also. So we can see where ID is 3, where name is Grace, where course is DCM. We're still gonna get the value, right? So using the where clause, you can filter value. Filter means you choose like what you want, right? So whatever you want using the filter value, you're gonna get it using the where clause, right? So okay, so using the where clause, you can filter value, get exactly what you want using any of the available columns inside the table, right? So that was executed. Now, what we want to do is we want to change value. So using the update statement, right? We want to change value. So let's go back here. So what we want to do here is I want to change my name to Morris. I want to use my last name. So instead of Momo, I want to do Morris. How can I change my name inside this table? Right? So let's go with the update. So we have to say update. Update. What you want update? I want update the table. So update student, and we have to use the keyword set. So set name equal to the first, what you want to make change to, right? What you want to change, the item you want to replace have to come first, right? So I want to say the new value. So I want to say change or set name equal Morris. Now where to set the name equal Morris. Morris in the single quote because it's a string character. So set name equal Morris. Now where? So I could say where ID is 1, or where course is Java, or where name is Momo. So any of the three condition will change it, right? So set name equal Morris where name is equal to Momo. That's it. Now using semicolon here, and then hitting F5, one rule affected. Running the select lines, hit execute. Now what you get? See, my name changed, right? So I could use name equal Momo, ID equal 1, course equal Java. Any of the three columns going to change the name, right? So that's how. Now change one from your side. No, now what you have to do is change the course of Joe from HTML to Android, right? So let's do that. Let's do that. So we want to say update. Name of the table you want to update. So update student. Now set. What we want to change the Joe course from HTML to something else, right? So set course, of course we want to change. So the column we want to change. So set course equal to, now what the new course we want for Joe. So we want to do Android. So we want to do Android. So we want to do Android for Joe. Now, what condition we want to use? We could say where name equal Joe, where ID equal 4, where course is equal HTML, right? So where ID is equal to 4 because Joe ID is 4, right? So highlighting this and executing, one would affect it, right? So running the select statement from student. So send select all from student, right? Highlighting and executing this. Now let's see what happened. Joe course changed to 100. Get that? So that's how you can use the update statement. You can go ahead, make your tables use insert data and then use different method, try to change different value, right? But that's how easy it is, right? So the next thing we want to do is, now we want to alter the table. Whenever you get the keyword alter, meaning we want to hide something there, we want to hide column, right? Now for the student table where I want to create only 3 columns, right? So we want to hide the age column for student. So what we have to do now, we have to use the alter keyword by saying, so alter table, name of the table you want to alter. So let's alter the student table. Now we have to hide. So alter table student, hide. What column we want? Hide age. We want to hide the age column, right? So we want to hide age. The data type for age, so age is integer. So let's hide age. And then let's execute. One word effect, let's run. So let's take it from here. Execute. Now what we get? One column hidden, the age column is not, meaning no value there, right? But what we want to do now is, now think, if we want to put value inside the age, now I want to give my age. So what would I write? What would I write then? Okay. Now if you forget, let's watch up. We're using the update statement because we want to change something. We want to change it from null to value. So I want to give my age now. Say I'm studying Java and I have to give my age, right? So we have to do update. Name of the table you want to update. So let's update them. Let's set age equal, I just turned 28. So age equal 28. Now where? We have to use the where clause. So where? Now I can use my name, or I can use I can use my ID, say my on number 1. So I could say where ID is equal to 1. Right, then I have to do semicolon. So if I do highlights and then execute, one would affect it. Let's go by and run the select statement from here. So running my select statement from here, see what happens. My age changed to 28. So for the updates, you have to update one record at a time. You can, if I want to update all, then I'm just going to give one value. That one value is going to fetch all. So make your table go ahead and then set age for everybody like this. Okay. So that's how we can update. That's how we can update. That's how we can alter the table. So let's look at the agenda. The next one is going to be, we have to create one more table where we have to use the primary key constraint, right? So we already have the student table. Now let's go ahead and create our student table. We can do it in a new query window and just increase our zoom back to 200. So now let's go ahead. I know you know how to create a table. So we have to say, so create table. You're not creating database again. Inside Bluegrass, we're having 2 tables. So create table, now teacher. We're going to have the teacher table. Now what are the columns inside the teacher table? So we're going to have ID. The teacher is going to have ID. Now on the ID column, we have to make it unique. So we have to add a primary key constraint, right? So primary key, make the column unique. So every table you want to make, you want to have a primary key there, to make it unique. So when the primary key appears in other table now, it becomes foreign key there, right? So whenever we want to do join tables, then we have to, make it unique by adding the primary key. So ID, that's going to be the first column. Data type for ID is going to be integer, and we have to add primary key. So primary key constraint, and also what we want is, we want the ID to increase. Okay, whenever I add 1, I want it to increase by 1. So I have to do identity 1, 1, right? So I want to do identity. So primary key identity column 1, 1. So we're going to ID to start by 1 and then increase by 1, right? That's it. So no need to put the ID when we type in the data ID, right? It will increase automatically because we have identity 1, 1, right? Now we have to do comma to go to the next column. So the next one we're going to have is the teacher name, right? So when we get name, the data type for name. So data type for name, also name we want 50 characters. That we do comma. And the next one we want is the salary column. So one salary column also. Okay, now we're going to add another column. We're going to add the salary column for teacher. Right. Now salary, it has to do with cash, right? It has to do with money. So we can use integer, but if you use integer, in case somebody's salary is ending in decimal, what will you do? Then it can accept that value. So for decimal value, we can use decimal data type, and then we can also use the float. For me, I like using float. So we can use the float data type. This is the 3 columns that we want to have. Remember, we open parentheses here, so here we want to close parentheses, and we want to do the same on column, right? So executing this syntax is going to create the teacher table, right? Now we have to go ahead and insert data inside the teacher table. But let's first explore and see what is that, right? So we want to say, so select star. We want to say select star from teacher, right? Now let's highlight and then let's execute. So we have 3 columns there, right? So inside the 3 columns we have the insert value. Are we going to put ID? No. We're only using 2 columns now. So let's go ahead and write the syntax. So insert into name of the table teacher. So insert into teacher. What are the columns we insert in value? Don't put ID there again. ID will increase automatically. ID going to increase automatically. So parenthesis open. So we only got to have name, salary. Right? Close it. Now keywords value. Like that. So here the first person name. So what's the first teacher name? The first teacher name is James. James have to be in a single quote. We have to do a comma. Then we have to do salary. So salary is number, so no single quote. So let's say this guy is taking 575.99. That's his salary. Close the parenthesis, do a comma. So let's insert 5 values. So parenthesis open again in a single quote, the name of the next teacher. So let's say this guy is Abraham. So Abraham. So comma, what is his salary? Let's say he's doing $300. And then let's close and do a comma. Let's go next. So parenthesis open. See, we're not putting ID because we add a identity column. So whenever we insert one value, we're going to give the ID 1. If we insert another one, it's going to increase by 1. So you're going to have 2 for that. So right here, let's go ahead and do the third person name. So let's say George. So George is the third teacher. So comma, what is George's salary? So let's say George is making $150. Right, so close the parenthesis and then comma. Now the full value. Now single quote also. What's the meaning of this? Okay, so let's go ahead with the third person name. So let's say Puff. So the teacher is Mark. Then comma. The salary of this teacher is 700. So let's say 700. Close the parenthesis. Then do a comma. So open parenthesis for the 5th person. So let's say the 5th person is Marie, and then let's say Marie's salary is $750. Right? Close the parenthesis. At the end, do a semicolon. Right? So now we have 5 values. Right? So let's go ahead and execute our syntax. Starting from here, we have to click on execute or use the F5 key. Execute. We have 5 rows affected. So let's go back this way and see what's there. Now inside the teacher table, see, we have ID there, right? We didn't put the ID in the insert statement, but ID got increased automatically because we used the identity columns here, right? So that's how easily we can go about doing that. And now let's look at the agenda and see what we left with. Already did adding column, author. Let's use some of the operators, right? Let's use some of the operators. So we want to do sum, we want to do the average, we want to do the count, we want to do the max, the mil greater than the next of it, right? So what we want is, somebody want to know how many total dollars you have to pay the teacher every month, right? So we have to give the total of the salary. So we got to say select, right, sum, the result of addition. So what we want to sum, what is the column we want to sum? So that column you have to put in parentheses. So we want to sum the salary column from teacher, name of the table. Highlight, then execute. This is the sum. So 2,475.99. That's the total sum of the teacher's salary using the sum. So let's go ahead and see how many teachers are there. So we have to use the count. We have to say select count. And what we want to count? Let's count the name column. So select count name from name of the column. So teacher. So we have to do teacher, hit, then execute. So there are 5 teachers. So count going to give total number. Okay. So the next one we want to do is we want to do average, right? So let's do the average for the salary column. So select average. So select average, parenthesis open. What column we want to average? So salary. So from name of the table. So let's execute this. Now this is the average of the salary value, right? Okay, now this is the average of the salary. So the next one we want to do is, let's look at the agenda here. All average count max. Now we want to know who is taking the higher money, right? So we want to do the max. So we want to do max. So we want to know who is taking the highest salary based on the salary column, right? So we want to say select max. So select max from salary. Max on the salary column from the teacher table. Right? So highlight and then execute. So the maximum salary is 750. Now let's go for the minimum salary. Who's taking less salary? So select min parenthesis open on the salary column. Go from teacher. See, the smallest salary is 150. Okay. Now the next one, I want to know who have salary greater than $300, right? So use the greater than sign or the operator. So that includes a where clause. So select all from teacher. So select all from teacher. Now where salary is greater than 300. Right? Semicolon. Highlight. Execute. Now we have ID number 1, 4, and 5. So James, Mark, and Marie having more salary greater than 300, right? So one salary lesser than 300. So we can just change the sound from here to see whose salary is lesser than 300. So execute. Now only one person. This guy having 150. Okay. So that was the end of the agenda. I think SQL Part 1. So you still have to look out for the next video. Then thank you for watching. You have to practice, make your own table, make your own database, put data there. If you increase your amount, you will do 10 value. That's okay. Okay, now in case I want to fetch these 2 table value the same time, then I have to just write the insert statement, the select statement twice. So I'm gonna say select start from student also. Just let's start from student. Now highlight this 2 syntax. So highlight this and then execute. So we have the both table here. See that? The both table showing below here. So that was it. And then keep tuned. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And see you in the part 2.